Welcome to the WRAL Daily Download. I'm Grace Holland. On Tuesday, UNC Chapel Hill fired football coach Mack Brown with a 6-5 record this season. It was Brown's second stint leading the Tarheels. WRAL sports investigative reporter Brian Murphy joins me to talk about this decision. Brian, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So did we expect that this might be coming, and more importantly, did Coach Brown expect that this might be coming?
There's been a lot of speculation about Mack Brown's future. He's 73. He's the oldest head coach in college football, FBS, the highest level. And it's sort of been out there in the news. Is he going to retire? Is he going to leave? Is he going to have to get pushed out? And so I think certainly there's been this speculation. I think coming before the end of the season, coming the week of the NC State game was a little bit surprising. The timing of it all was surprising. But Carolina has had something of a disappointing season, including a few embarrassing losses that may have played a role in some of this.
Okay, and let's talk about the season that all falls into. So what has been kind of embarrassing and what all has been going on with the team?
Yeah, I mean, I think first we need to start with the death of Tylee Kraft. I mean, he's was a wide receiver on this team, had battled a rare form of cancer for about 2.5 years, and he passed away in the middle of the season. And Mack Brown handled it as well as any coach could possibly handle it. That's where having an experienced Hall of Fame head coach probably came in handy. He dealt with it extremely well, and the team actually went on a 3-game winning streak in the immediate aftermath of that. But there was a 70-20 home loss to James Madison. That was, Mack Brown described as embarrassing. There was an effort against Boston College this last week in which they were kind of blown out. Said his guys weren't ready to play in many ways. And so there were just more and more of those types of games coming. They lost to Duke 21-20, a game they led throughout the entire game. And Duke came back and beat them at the end. So I think there was a sense that the program had stagnated a little bit. They had 2 NFL quarterbacks, Sam Howell and Drake May. They got up to number 10 in the rankings, with Drake May as quarterback. And then they had terrible finishes to the last 2 seasons. And so I think there was a sense that Mack did what he came back to do. He brought North Carolina to some relevance. He's reached a bowl game in all 6 of his seasons, but that the program had in some ways plateaued with Mack Brown as head coach.
Okay. And with that being said, I mean, how does that affect Mack Brown's legacy in Tar Heel football and in the sport?
Yeah, I don't think it does. I mean, he's number 7 all time in wins at the FBS level. He won a national championship at Texas and reached another national championship game, one that he'll forever think they would have won if their starting quarterback hadn't gotten hurt on the first drive against Alabama. He's the winningest coach in North Carolina history. When he was during his first stint in the late 1990s, had UNC in the top 10, competing with Florida State for ACC championships. They could never get over that Florida State hurdle, but lots of teams couldn't get over that Florida State hurdle back in those days. And then he came back, out of retirement, out of the broadcast booth, to get North Carolina back is what he talked about. He wanted to reestablish North Carolina as a program, and he did largely. They're going to a 6th straight bowl this year. They are a reputable team. He's had some great recruiting wins, but so I don't think it sullies his reputation at all.
Okay, let's take a quick break right there, and we'll be right back. Brian, what has been the reaction around Tar Heel Nation to this firing, given, like you said, there had been some chatter?
Yeah, it's been somewhat mixed. I mean, I've talked to people who said, everyone kind of knew this was coming. If you look at the stands at Kenan Stadium, not great crowds for much of the season. That loss to James Madison has stuck with a lot of people. Not that they lost to James Madison, but the fashion in which they did, giving up 70 points at home. I've talked to others, including John Pryor, who's the chair of the UNC Board of Trustees, who said, well, this could have been handled way better. Well, why do it a couple of days before the NC State game and put our entire program in turmoil? I mean, the truth is there's never really a great time to do this. Once you make the decision that Mack Brown is not coming back, do you owe it to him to tell him right away? Could you wait till Sunday? There will always be questions, I think, about how, the timing went down. But I think overall, most people felt like this was coming, whether it came this year or one more year. It's not like Mack Brown was going to be coaching this team, into 2030. This change was coming, and is it better to go ahead and do it now or to wait, give him one more season, one more kind of swan song season? So I think the reaction's a little bit mixed, but I don't think anyone is devastated by this news.
Okay. And how does this affect the game going against NC State and possible bowl games after that?
Yeah, well, NC State needs this game to get bowl eligible. So there was already a lot on the line for NC State. NC State has beaten North Carolina the last 3 years. Mack Brown, during his first stint, talked a ton about winning the state championship, beating Duke, beating Wake, beating NC State, being the best team in the state. So this game means a lot to him as well. And now it has the added significance of possibly being his last game. There's a chance he'll coach in the bowl, but the bowl games have been far diminished in college football, so it's possible lots of players are missing. So this is the last game where it's the true North Carolina team this year against the true NC State team this year, and we'll see. I think the emotions are going to be super high on Saturday for that game, and last year NC State really got the better of them, but the 2 years before that, very close games. One went into overtime, one came down to the last minute. So it should be a competitive game and an emotional game in Chapel Hill.
Yeah, sounds like it'll be a lot to watch this weekend. Always, like you said, high emotions and the rivalry there, very important. So do we know who might be on the short list to be the next UNC head coach?
There's some names that keep popping up. But one name that I would keep an eye on is Tulane coach John Sumrall. Ironically, when North Carolina hired Mack Brown the first time, they hired him from Tulane.
I was about to say, wouldn't that be something?
Yeah, and so you look at it, and I would look at the G5 level, the group of 5 level where you have coaches like Sumrall for Tulane. Jeff Monken at Army has had a really good season. North Carolina is the only P4 job open right now. And so, in theory, they should have their pick of the litter. They should be able to, and financially, they should be able to compete with just about anybody out there as long as a big SEC or Big Ten job doesn't open up. North Carolina has always been an attractive school. I mean, lots of coaches have wanted to come here. It's a great place to live, a great academic school, and they obviously care about athletics a lot. And football doesn't face the same pressure as men's basketball does at UNC. So there's a lot of good things that go into this job. I think the biggest question coaches will have is, how committed are you to NIL? How committed are you to this revenue sharing that's coming up? How committed are you to putting in the dollars that it's going to take to win at a high level? But the college football playoff has opened the door for other teams that we didn't think of before, SMU, Indiana, somebody out of the Big 12 like a Colorado or an Arizona State. You can turn programs around pretty quickly these days with the transfer portal, with NIL money. How willing is North Carolina to swim in the big pond when it comes to those things?
Right. And with all of that in consideration for just who might even want the job, how long might this search actually take?
Well, that's a great question because there's some motivation to move quickly. National Signing Day is on Wednesday for high school athletes. The transfer portal opens on December 9th. You could see a huge exodus of players out of the North Carolina program if there's no coach in place by that time. And then you could miss out on being able to get players out of the transfer portal if there's not a coach in place, by December 9th. On the other hand, you've got to make a great hire. Certainly there's the changing world of college athletics. And in this world, you can't afford Kenan Stadium to be empty. It's got to be full. It's got to be generating as much revenue as possible because that revenue funds so much in your athletic department. And so do you work quickly to salvage, this recruiting class, salvage next season, or do you work a little more slowly to make sure you have the right person? Ideally, you've found that right person very quickly and you get them in place. But that's a difficult balancing act for athletic director Bubba Cunningham.
Yeah. And where do we think that the program goes from here?
That's a great question. Mack Brown has been the best coach that this program's had in recent memory. It was under him in the 90s that it got really good. It was him in this most recent stint that it was at least relevant nationally, producing NFL quarterbacks, getting to an Orange Bowl. So there is not a lot of history of other coaches outside of Mack Brown being super successful in the recent past. Butch Davis had a decent run, but that was marred by scandal. So they've had pop-up years. That's what North Carolina's been able to do, really put together a good season here or there, but not sustain it. And so the next coach has a lot of work to do. Certainly we don't know what's going to happen with the ACC. We don't know how the college football playoff is going to expand or not expand. And we don't know what's going to happen with the SEC and the Big Ten as far as their expansion. So it's a time of great change, but North Carolina has traditionally been a average football program, and it will take a lot, I think, to get it out of that cycle.
Okay, well, a lot to watch there. Thank you so much, Brian. And thank you for listening to the WRAL Daily Download and making us a part of your morning routine. Another great way to get WRAL news is the Morning Briefing newsletter. It's a daily email with Triangle news, events, and headlines to help you get ready for the day. Sign up at WRAL.com/newsletter.